Welcome to CNAS Transfer Tales, an oral history of the transfer student experience at the UC Riverside College of Natural and Agricultural Sciences. My name is Cynthia, and I'm a biochemistry major with an emphasis on chem who transferred to CNAS from Riverside City College. I grew up in Moreno Valley, which is the city adjacent to Riverside. I was born in LA though, so I always say that I'm from LA. Being this close to Riverside, it was really easy to hear about UCR, so I always kind of knew it was here. I didn't necessarily know what it meant. I never did any of the transfer days or talk to any booths or anything growing up. It was just kind of the school I knew was closest to home. I attended community college at RCC, which is down the street. It's actually further into Riverside than UCR is. I studied biochemistry, but I can honestly say I really only took chemistry classes there. So I knew my chemistry professor really well because I had the same professor for Gen Chem as I did for OChem. And then after a while, I kind of just took classes I thought looked fun. So I took electrical wiring, I took criminal investigations class, stuff like that, just to kind of make sure the sciences is where I wanted to be. The moment I knew the sciences were for me, I want to say it was in high school. So I've always loved science. I remember doing my 7th grade poster board project. Actually, even in the 4th grade, we had to do a little science fair thing. And my project was a little bit more on psychology there, I believe. I kind of was testing to see if our younger puppy dogs could follow the scent of bologna that we slapped on little bricks we had in the backyard as a maze, if they could get through the maze faster and recognize the patterns better than their parents. So that was in the 4th grade. I remember 7th, 8th grade, I loved my science classes. I always wanted to be in a field where you're never done learning. There's always more to know. There's always things that are changing. Even the fundamentals are... Okay, my favorite definition is a definition of a theory. A theory isn't something that's true, it's just something that hasn't necessarily been disproven. It's just consistent. And that's kind of what led me to know, I want to be in science forever. I chose to attend UC Riverside because I had spent a lot of time in community college. I spent about 6 years there. And the reason I spent so long there is because at 19, I didn't want to be a financial burden to my family, so I moved out. And because I moved out, I started working more. So by the age of about 21, I was running a store as manager already. And the more I worked, the less focus I had on school. So being a full-time student and a part-time worker then began to turn into a full-time student as a full-time worker. And it eventually led to me being a full-time worker and a part-time student. I was only taking about a class a semester, which is 16 weeks, not 10. And I kind of got to a point in my life where stuff at work was pretty bad in some senses. I had a midterm that I had to study for, and my district manager was like, no, I need you to work on your day off, X, Y, and Z. And I couldn't study at all, and I knew I could have done better in it. And so my grades slipped a little bit. And it took a moment for me to kind of step back and ask myself, what am I doing? Where do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Because I always knew I didn't want to be a store manager forever or working for that company for long. I reevaluated and said, I continued school after high school because I wanted to get a degree and then use that to get a PhD or go into industry and then hopefully, help my family out. And what I'm doing right now doesn't really match with that. And so I lived in Moreno Valley, and I used to commute to my store in Norco. And the 60 gets pretty full if you know it, by Blaine, between Blaine and then Box Springs, going towards Moreno Valley. And so eventually, when I was taking my freeway interchange from Norco to Mobile, in the middle of the night, sometimes I would get out 10:30, 11 p.m. I would take a detour through the school because I wanted to avoid the freeway traffic. And I would always at the crossing, if you guys, if you've ever been through Riverside, right by where the flagpole is, where it literally says, welcome to UCR. And I would see, students walking with their backpacks, their notebooks, all times of day. I initially would pass through to avoid traffic. But eventually I would pass through just because I kind of liked the university feeling. I felt stuck at the moment in life where, things weren't going super well for me. And it gave me something to look forward to. It kind of gave me something to aspire towards, and it refocused me on what I wanted. So I remember in high school, I was like, yeah, I'll probably go to UCR because it's close, which is valid. It's a completely valid reason. I really didn't feel like moving and it was convenient. But, here was 6 years later, and UCR wasn't necessarily about proximity anymore. It was more like UCR is my opportunity to really start over again and really do what I love to do and get out of the place I was in. So I did. I actually ended up moving to LA, which was worse for me, but I was commuting the whole first year. I didn't apply to any other schools. I remember when application season came and I only applied to UCR. I said, this is it. This is my chance. If this doesn't work out, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So I applied only to UCR. I turned it in the day it was due, obviously, and then I went to work that day. My first year as a transfer student was actually terrible, but also really amazing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say once you transfer, your problems are gone. Once you transfer, you're in completely unknown territories. Everyone always talks about the semester to quarter system, right? You're used to 16 weeks versus 10 weeks of the quarter system, but there's a lot more that comes with that. When you're in a semester system, it feels a little dragged out, but there's so many assignments you have to do. If you miss turning one thing in, you can make it up easily. In the quarter system, every assignment, it can drop you, from an A- to a B+ easily. The quarter system has A- and an A count for different GPA credits. I didn't know how to really interact with my professors because, I just heard they were researchers. They're researchers first. I hate it when people say that. Like, they're professors. They're here to teach as well. They do care about teaching and they care about creating that community, but it's really daunting when you're in a class of 300, 400 people, one of the biggest majors in CNAS. I didn't know how to study for a quarter system. I didn't know what the exams were going to look like. I didn't know how to speak to professors. Till this day, I spend 11 to 13 hours on campus every day. I missed my family. I was away, for a long time and I didn't know if it was worth it. And it's really easy to kind of say, no, I'm okay. Everything is fine. Everyone around me seems fine. But you have to know that whether it be for the same or different reasons, everyone around you is going through the same thing. And that was kind of a lesson I learned throughout my first year, because the first quarter was about acclimating. And once you got it, the challenges are never really gone. It's just about you pushing yourself to move faster. And the community with the transfer students is amazing too. We help each other out in ways that aren't even necessarily scholastic. My best friend Jared was a physics major. He was a transfer student. He single-handedly helped me pass physics 2A with an A. It was them who were there for me. It was them who were like, you're feeling bad, what do you need? We started taking walks around campus. Oh, you're stressed, let's go take a walk. Oh, do you need something? Oh, I know, I like to eat spicy chips throughout finals. So every time there was an exam, my friends would come, boom, spicy chips, hot chocolate, So my first year was extremely difficult, but after it was over, coming into my second year, I can honestly say I can get through what's going on now. I got through the first year. I got through I went through all the quarters. And if I can overcome the challenges throughout, a whole year, I can do it again this year. At UCR, I'm involved with university honors, science ambassadors, the transfer peer mentors, and I'm the president of the CNAS Transfer Connections Club. As a transfer, it feels like you're trying to play catch up a lot, but UCR definitely doesn't short us on opportunities. Oh, I'm also involved in research. I completely forgot just because it's so second nature. There are a lot of ways to get involved. I was fortunate enough that when I had applied to UCR, I got an email for a program called RISE, which is Research in Science and Engineering. It's basically you apply, and if you get in, you get 10 weeks over the summer. You get paid with a stipend of, I think it's about $5,000 to do research with a professor on campus. And you also get put in a lot of workshops that kind of teach you things like how to get a letter of recommendation, the resources on campus to help, like the Academic Resource Center or our Student Health Center, stuff like that. And after my 10 weeks were up, my professors, my PI, so my principal investigator, said, hey, do you want to stay? We have a spot for you in our lab. And if it wasn't for Rise, I have no idea how difficult it would have been to get into research. As a transfer student, generally you do 2, maybe 3 years, but your grad abs are due like December of your senior year. So you feel like you have to run and try to do everything that first year so that you can have your resume or your CV as packed as possible. I would describe CNAS as hardworking, family, and home. As a science ambassador, I give a lot of tours, and without a doubt, well, I give CNAS tours. I'm going to make that clear. I don't give the general tours, so everything I say is going to be from the eyes of a CNAS student and a CNAS science ambassador. One thing that, without a doubt, people will mention when they say, why did you come to UCR? What's great about UCR? Everyone always says community. And that community isn't exclusive to only students. I always mention that our transfer coordinator, Liz, without her support that first quarter, I probably would have dropped out. When times are tough, she kind of just been there to be an ear for me. And it's, again, she's not a student, she's not faculty, she's staff. Likewise with almost everyone. So our hangout room for transfers is Pierce 1105. And completely down the hall, you have a variety of different people. Then I have the support of my lab, my postdoc, and my PIs. When I was having a hard time in research, I was really like, research is hard. This isn't for me. Breaking down with during Riverside. I had to have my research done by week 9, and week 8, everything was still dying. And my postdoc sat me down. She was like, hey, kid, just know that 99.9% of the time you can do everything right, and science just doesn't work. That's just how research works. And I take those words with me till this day, like, to heart, because it's true. I was doing everything right, and my insects kept dying. And not only did I have the support of my friends and, the cohort that transferred with me, but the staff and the faculty, these are the kind of people that it doesn't matter their title, doctor, staff, postdoc. They just, they genuinely just care. They want to make sure you're okay, and they want to do what they can to help you succeed, but they see you as a student. You're not just another biochemistry major. You're not just another postdoc in the pool, or another medical student or pre-med student in the pool of hundreds of thousands of people that are at UCR. They genuinely make you feel seen and heard, and that's the support, that's the family that CNAS truly has, and that's what I think makes it so warm and welcoming, despite how difficult our classes have, or our classes can be. I know they care about us, and likewise, I care about them a lot too, and I want to make sure they're okay. And that's kind of like the family I have here, and the family that understands what I'm going through. Because I love, my mom and my brother, but there's been situations where I'm like, hey, I don't know what class to take for X, Y, and Z, and I'm a first-generation college student and a first-generation American. All my mom could say is, I can't help you because I don't know, but I support your decision, and I appreciate her support, but they just don't get it like everyone else does. And it's nice to know that the people that do get it are also here for you. Because like I said, we're people before we're students, but we're all CNAS. The best part about UCR has been the phrase that life happens in between. That's kind of how I feel about UCR. It's not, don't get me wrong, I love the classes I've taken, but it's not the classes or the research or like the events or it's not any of that. For me, it's genuinely been the stuff that happens in between. So there's times where, my friends, Jared, Amanda, and I would be here till like 10 p.m. studying, but let's go take a walk, right? Let's take a break. We step outside and we see like the Star Wars Club, in the middle of Pierce Lawn. My first quarter here, I think it was like week 2. It was about 8 p.m. So it was dark, it's the fall. I step outside and I see like a bunch of people by the bell tower. I was like, what's going on? And there's people in cosplay, and I was like, all right, well, this is something. And then I take a little look, but I'm pretty short. I'm 5 feet, all right? I'll admit it. That's fine. I'm 5'2" on a good day. But I take a peek over, and they had a panel of voice actors from Genshin Impact, which is like a video game. And they had like a few computers out, like they had just had like a tournament or something. the little hidden things when you're like, I think it was the video game club that put that on. And that's the best part about UCR for me is we would call it nighttime adventures, right? When we're out here cramming or we're just at school late. Because don't get me wrong, I used to stay at school late and I would just play like GeoGuessr on a monitor with my friends because that's how we de-stressed at the time. But it's the going out at random hours and there's always something going on. It's always lively somehow. It doesn't have to be because the sun is up and there's some official event, but there's always stuff going on. And that's my favorite part. I don't think there's something I would do differently. There was a lot of hardships and a lot of things I went through, but I feel like I had to go through all those things to really solidify, how I wanted to move forward. The bad stuff made me stronger and the good stuff kept pushing me. So I don't really think I would do anything differently. My advice for prospective transfer students is don't forget you're a person. It's really, really easy to get caught up in the, let me do a comp. Let me run this organization. Let me get a campus job. Let me do research. Let me take all of these units. I got to catch up. I got to make sure my CV is good. I want to go to grad school. I want to take a gap year. I want to do medical school. Just how overwhelming it felt to hear me say that and how stressful it was. That's how it feels times 10. It's really easy to get drowned in the work. But don't forget you're a student. This is the one thing I learned from my best friend Jared, who, shout out Jared, he's doing this condensed matter physics PhD at UC Santa Barbara. When I got here, his advice to us was have a non-negotiable. So his non-negotiable was he would go to chess club every Friday. It doesn't matter how many midterms, how many finals, how much work, every Friday he would go to chess club. My non-negotiable for my entire first year was to take Korean, which sounds like I'm adding more work, but it was really good for my mental health. Every quarter, I would show up and seeing my professor every morning, I knew it was going to be the day. Learning a new language and being able to connect with different people through that language was what made me happy. I have friends that are in the boxing club. Don't forget you're a person. When you're looking back at your time at UCR 20, 30, 40, 50 years on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, I remember the stress. No, you're like, I remember that despite the stress, I took the leap. I did end up going to check out, the archery club, and I loved it. And then I did archery for years. You're gonna remember the experiences and how it shaped you. So don't forget to be more than a student, because you're more than a student. And that's my advice. If you're looking for where to transfer, if UCR doesn't feel like home I'm not gonna say when you step up, but when you're here, then it might not be the school for you. If a different school feels that way, that's okay. But on the flip side of that coin, don't go to a school because of prestige or name, right? As long as you have a goal in mind and you're willing to work for it, you can do that. And that's where you want to be. You don't want to be somewhere where you hate waking up and going to classes. Go to the school that makes you feel like home. And there's no straight path, right? We're transfer students. I love that about transfer students. There's no one category of us. It's not like we are all coming from the same place. No, we have, in just our peer mentors, we have people that came from community college in San Jacinto. We have someone that used to drive all the way from Palm Springs. Some of us came from Riverside, like I said, the Bay Area. But we're all from different areas. We have different stories, like I said. We're so colorful and we bring such life experience and we're so different. But I feel like those differences are what kind of build our community and it makes it so rich. My name is Cynthia and you've been listening to CNAS Transfer Tales.